It's me, Sailor Moon. And it's me, Sail Pluto here. And today we're going to talk about Jim Crockett namesake and him dying at 75. Now, for a lot of folks who don't know Jim Crockett or Jim Crockett namesake, he was a former wrestling business owner. He was the former owner of Mid Atlantic World Championship Wrestling, or MACW, which would, after being sold over to Turner Broadcast System and Time Warner and American Online years later, would become World Championship Wrestling, or WCW. Now, um, I'm not going to go out and say that I know a lot about him because I don't. But, but I do know a little bit. He was one of the very few wrestling business owners that, you know, well, he was born into the wrestling business he was born into the wrestling business. The Crockettts have been in the wrestling business for some time. His father had started MAWCW, which become WCW years later. Um, he was one of the former four setters of the NWA back when MCWCW was with them. And a lot of folks seem to wonder. I'm not sure what he died from, to be honest with you, but it is what it is. And he owned he owned Mid Atlantic Pro Wrestling for a long time until 1988, when, under having income hangups, they eventually would sell over to Robert Turner and Turner Broadcast layout, and then that was be it. Yeah, he would come back years later and start up another business, but it wouldn't last as long as the one he did before. And he really kept out of the wrestling business after that. Not really too much was heard of him, you know. Ugh. But anything else you want to say? Well, that's pretty much all the things I wanted to say. Like I said, Jim Crockett was one of the former owners of, MACW, which become WCW. You know, he was the one who had Dusty Rhodes as his booker, and they would come up with a lot of all kinds of matches and stuff that would, in belief, would keep MAWCW around for years, which it did, but it was really there was a Turner buyout that actually ended up doing it. Um, you know, but at the end of the day, he really didn't want to sell it. His mother and father had to talk him into doing it, but he really didn't want to sell to Turner because he felt that he could shift things around. Well, they actually could not do it, but he believed he could. You know, and he was the one who was fighting Vince McMahon in the early days of the WWF MACW fight, which would eventually spill over to the WF WCW fight years later. But you know, you know, sadly he'll be missed. You know, I don't know what he died from, and I only learned it yesterday. But we'll make a film about it now, since I didn't have time to make a film about it yesterday, though. You know, so yeah, that's pretty much all I could say there. Well, I guess you're right about that, Sail Pluto. What I said earlier and what you said earlier, that's about right. Can't really think of anything else more to talk about him because that's pretty much all we know, you know. And I'm sure some old time wrestling followers out there might know a lot more about him than we do, you know. But it is what it is. One last little thing that I do know was that when it was bought out by Turner and Knight between 88 YL, he was the first underrunning force setter of WCW for maybe a year. Because by 9 between 89 YL, Ted Turner had brought in Jim Herd, and he was out. Well, actually, there was Ted Turner and the head of Turner Sports at the time, Jack Peartree, who brought in Jim Herd, and then he was out. Yes, he did come back years later and start up another wrestling business, which didn't really last that long, and I can't really think of the name. But that's sad to hear that. But I do know that the James Crockett namesake, or Jim Crockett namesake, is up in heaven now with God and Jesus now. He's at rest now at Goodstead. Yep, that's good to know. You're right about that, Sail Moon. And once again, we just want to say that we didn't really know that much about him. What we knew about him is what we read and what we learned from the rise and fall of WCW, or the Monday Night War, Monday Night War disc, or the Monday Night War show that had gone on W Folkwork at the time. So that's it. If you like this film, then watch the other film we made yesterday over here. Or follow us here at Sailor Moon for Life. I'm Sailor Moon. I'm Sarah Pluto. Hope you like this film.